for the last part of this unit, we're going to move on to what I've called the myth of linguistic purity. So there's a common view, I think, that the standard form of a language, standard in quotation marks there, or scare quotes, we might say the mainstream variety of a language is somehow better linguistically, structurally, than other varieties of a language. And for phonology, someone might say, well, that non-standard varieties, non-mainstream varieties, reflect a sort of laziness of pronunciation or lack of training or education. So to confront this myth, I think, we could just first think about the structure of non-standard varieties. So if aspects of the pronunciation of non-standard varieties were just instances of individual laziness, then we would expect that different varieties should all be lazy in the same way. So I'm lazy because I don't bother to pronounce the difference between cot and cot. Where are people lazy in this way? Well, we got our answer in the last time we looked at the Rick Ashman map by looking at we saw that out in the West there's the merger of cot and cot. So why are these particular varieties lazy in this way and other ones are not lazy in that way? The lesson from this already is that varieties of English are systematic languages that are learned by individuals through their interaction with a particular group or groups of people. So speakers of a non-standard variety aren't being lazy, they're speaking the variety that they learned. Now, there is a nuance here that I'm almost afraid to talk about, but I think it's important. It is actually true that linguistic change over time in a language, sometimes eliminates phonological features that are hard to produce or hard to perceive. So, for example, interdental fricatives, the th and the in English, are absent from many varieties. But again, if you learn a variety that happens to lack th and the, and has instead th and the or t and da, you're not being lazy in saying ta da or fa va. You're speaking the variety that you learned perfectly. And it would be a huge mistake to conclude on the basis of that one feature that the linguistic system as a whole is somehow simpler in one way or another. The other way that I'd like to talk about confronting this myth, and I think it's a very powerful way, is based on the arbitrariness of what feature is taken to be part of the standard. So we'll show that the same feature can be part of a stigmatized or standard variety from one place or another. And the example that we'll talk about most is R deletion. So R deletion, as we'll discuss, is an interesting, and when I say interesting, I mean complicated aspect of the phonology of several varieties of English. We're going to address these complexities later in the course when we talk about the phonology of R deletion. In current American English, R deletion is strictly regionally confined. So, as in the exercise that I asked you to do, looking at the Ashman map, you should have seen that R deletion is confined to the south and to the east of the United States. You might have already known that. So here's another example of R deletion. This is the Queen speaking in the first Christmas message that she broadcast on TV in 1957. And we're going to go to this section here where she says, you'll get an instance of R deletion in the word discard. So,
that it's possible for some of you to see me today is just another example of the speed at which things are changing all around us. Because of these changes, I'm not surprised that many people feel lost and unable to decide what to hold on to and what to discard, how to take advantage of the new life.
So discard with a clear example of R deletion. Now, clearly, the Queen's English is not a stigmatized variant of English. It's the most prestigious variety of English in the UK. And so the same feature, R deletion, This part of a stigmatized variety is our discussion of Eastern Massachusetts English brought out. It's at least stigmatized in some contexts. Is also prestigious is another area. There are also examples of Ardeletion as being standard in the United States, and this is from other times of being the prestige variety. In the 19th and early 20th centuries, Ardeletion was a property of the speech of the elite in the East and South of the U.S. And at that time, native speakers of varieties without Ardeletion would adopt Ardeletion in formal speech, and you've probably heard some of this in films. The example we'll look at is from William McKinley, who was president from 1897 to 1901. This is a campaign speech, so it would have been from a little earlier than that. And he was born and raised in Northern Ohio. So given what we know about Northern Ohio now and in the past, he was in all likelihood a native speaker of an R full variety, that is a variety that keeps R's in word final coda position. Again, we'll talk more about the particular aspects of Ardeletion later on in the course. So what you're going to be listening to, I'll just play a little bit of it, and I'll ask you to answer the question beneath: is which R's are deleted, which are preserved in this passage, and please note anything else that you find notable about R pronunciation. Just to give you a quick hint of what you're going to be listening to.
My fellow citizens, recent events have imposed upon the patriotic people of this country.
So there you go. You can also listen to Rex Harrison in the video, the My Fair Lady video. If you go to 120, you'll hear a nice example of Ardeletion. Okay, so I think it's pretty clear that what is a property of the prestigious, standard, mainstream variety is arbitrary. A phonological feature can be a feature of that variety, but it can also be a variety. The same feature can be a feature of a stigmatized variety at another time or place. The title of this course, Sounds of Englishes, was chosen to emphasize that varieties of English are not degraded forms of some standard. No variety is inherently more correct or beautiful. And if you want to get an example of an argument against inherent beauty of particular varieties, you can follow this link. It's a discussion by a linguist, Joe Fruwald, of this contest that Gawker had about the ugliest variety of American English. We'll talk more about that later in the course. So no variety is inherently more correct, beautiful, or properly structured than another. When a variety is stigmatized, that is a function of sociocultural factors. It's not because of any deficit in its linguistic form. I hope you've enjoyed this introduction, and I'm looking forward to working with you for the rest of the semester.